Thank you guys for joining us. This is our official information meeting for Outdoor Day, or our outdoor adventure program that we're doing over at CAC. And we're currently in our third year of it, yay! And where it was originally just kind of slated for sophomores, we've kind of expanded on that to incorporate all of the high school now. And and we're kind of looking to do that between both Chatfield and hopefully we can get into Roxborough this year as well. So fingers crossed. But anyway, Jamie, if you'll go ahead and put up the presentation real quick. And also if you need, Jamie will also occasionally in the message send a link that will share the slideshow presentation and also links that will get you to the documents that you need for permission slips and stuff like that. So, but anyway, we're just kind of starting. You know, we've been at Chatfield State Park doing some operations for a while now, and it's been a really cool resource for us to be really close to and get kids over to get immersed into nature. And so we just kind of discovered that, you know, going to these places, it allows us to kind of plug into all the different disciplines and kind of put them in a nice place together. And the outdoor classroom is where we seek those insights rather than having those insights kind of spilled onto us. So, and I just happened to share a few images on this, you know, of some of the things that we've seen since we've been there. This is Audubon. We've been there in October, and it's absolutely beautiful at certain times of the year. Go ahead and keep advancing. And as you can see, fall is a really special time to be over there. I think it's very pretty. So, but anyway, just go through a program overview. So we've got rationale, what's going to happen. We've got objectives and goals for this year. We'll talk about the location and some of the activities we're going to do. We'll have a schedule that we're going to work with, what your students should bring, required forms, safety and emergency procedures, virtual options for those that are online, and then ways that you can support the program. So if we can go ahead. And I don't have the textbooks. I should have quoted this. It's bad on me being a teacher, but I've seen multiple research documents that, you know, support outdoor education. And really, it's just the best resource that we have locally at CAC. But it's a method for learning. It's experiential. It takes primarily outdoors. It requires the use of all of the senses. It's based upon interdisciplinary curricula and is about relationships involving people and natural resources. Those are just some of the things that we could talk about in terms of what it means to get people out into nature. And there's lots of research that supports that it's needed for our kids. So some of our objectives and goals, we're expanding, obviously, our program to involve all the grades for high school, 9 through 12. We're also going to expand throughout all of Chatfield State Park, but also we would like to do a little bit of work into Roxborough as well. We're trying to get a little more use of experts from various fields this round to see if they can kind of help out in the teaching. And we're hoping to increase opportunities to earn various certifications and qualifications. And one example that we have would be like Wilderness First Aid Responder through Colorado Mountain CMC. Yeah, that's it. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at right now. So if you'll go ahead and advance. And then Jamie, if there's anything you want to add or modify or change, whatever, please mention it. So our location, at least for this coming Saturday, is going to be at Chatfield State Park. And you guys do have access to this presentation. There is a Google Earth link. And I don't know, Jamie, yeah, there you go, perfect. And it will actually render this whole thing of the park there. And this is on the southern portion of the park. I don't know if you can zoom out on it at all, Jamie, so you can see where it's at in relation, but I guess it's fine. That spot there is on the southern portion of the park, and we've created a little boundary around there as well. And all those little waypoints, they're all geotagged with GPS coordinates, and they represent where we will have class. And so I guess it's kind of our classroom. And the hallways are all the trails that the kids are going to walk through. So we've got waypoint Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, Foxtrot, all those kind of cool names there. And so in various positions, we're going to be carrying out various different activities. You guys do have access to this presentation, both Google Earth and the presentation itself. So, and this is what we've been using so far to build the projects. And so you guys do have that link in where we're going to be. Just a few...
familiar with the Chatfield State Park. If you go around the actual reservoir to the pond where the paddleboarding happens, the just past that paddleboarding pond, you'll see a bathroom on the right and then a parking lot just past that bathroom. And that's the meeting spot that we're going to be starting at.
If you'll zoom in, Jamie, on where that meeting spot is at. And this is accessed on the presentation as well. We're just happen to be zooming in a little bit here. But if you look in the kind of the upper right of that rectangle, you'll see the meeting location, parent drop-off location. That is actually the Platte River parking lot. And so a lot of fishing, fishermen will go over in that location, and that's where that carries carried out over there. We'll have a couple of easy ups in that station, and that's where we'll want parents to kind of drive and drop off. Please stay with the kid because we're going to have to do COVID screening. So similar procedure that we carry out over at school, but we'll just have to do it over here. Again, if we have any issues, we'll be planning to screen over there, and we'll also have a quarantine area we do at school. Okay. So again, it's at Chatfield State Park. You guys do have access to the link to know where we're going to be operating at, and also the presentation as well. And you can kind of see the little blip over there on the upper left of the place there on that image there. That's where we're going to actually be entering. So if we go ahead and go to the next slide. Again, it's that location. We've portioned it off, and we have 6 potential places to be. There's the drop-off location. It's a Platte River parking lot, and this is through Google Maps. That link right there in the presentation will actually give you the directions from the school to that particular location. Okay, and so that's how you get over to there, that link. And there's the GPS coordinates specifically for it. If you will go ahead and advance really quick. Oh, really quick, something that wasn't mentioned in here. I thought we had it on here, but maybe it got deleted. Every student that is participating, parent, whomever, if you're with the school, the state park was gracious enough to give us, grant us permission to be there. So there's a parking permit. You'll see that linked, and you'll also see that linked in this presentation as well. But that is the placard that they want. So you're going to cut that out, and you're going to adhere it into the window. I think on the right side there, or at least have it ready for you. And that's what we have in place that's been given to us so that we can operate with the state park. This is for school and when we're operating at the school. And so I would just, really make sure that we keep it at that. So, it's an opportunity for the kids to come, but this isn't intended to be something that's abused. We really want to support the park, but if you guys want to go and visit the parks regularly, please consider getting a parks pass. It helps to support all the things that are going on over there. But they were gracious enough to let us have a permit, and without really too much trouble. And is very gracious of them, especially during kind of COVID and all the things that we're having to comply with right now, is kind of a nice thing. So anyway, that is a document that you guys can use, and their staff are aware that we will be operating over there. Okay. So as you saw on those locations that we had all these different waypoints: Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo. So they represent areas where certain classroom activities will be carried out. So if you kind of look at Alpha, we would have Southern and Stafford. They're going to be calculating river flow. Breitner and Daly are going to be working on Spanish and an American art movement. Myself and Miss Bergrand are going to be working with macro inverts, water quality testing, and talking about leave no trace ethics. And then also Baker will be doing some extended metaphor work over in location Echo. So that kind of gives you an idea of like the things that are going to be happening at those particular locations.
And at the station with Mr. Daly, there's also going to be some art happening there. So we're hoping to provide some materials for the students, but if your student is really into art and wants to bring some art supplies, there will be an opportunity to make some art on this day as well and get art credit for that.
Cool. All right, go ahead and go to the next slide real quick. I think what we need to do is change out this. When we see the schedule, yeah, this is the schedule. It says station 1, station 2. I think what might be a little more appropriate is we mean like period 1, period 2. Essentially, that's kind of how our schedule rotation is going to work. And so every kid is going to go to every waypoint where the teachers are throughout that day. And so that's how that's going to work. So 7:40 is kind of our official drop-off time with COVID screening. And pretty much, we want people to start gathering in around that time. And we're expecting to have, since it's going to be new for a lot of people, we'll have a little bit of time where we're going to hang out a little bit. So about 8 to 8:30 is going to be set up and then we'll eventually migrate out to our first stations of the day. Okay, so 8:30 and 9:30 represent really just the first time slot. So maybe like period 1 is maybe something that's a little more appropriate. 9:30 to 10:30, and you can see how it goes on. We hit lunch at 12:30, and we'll be doing a whole hour. And we've just really been pushing for the students to kind of be out and enjoy nature, and to enjoy that space for them personally during that time. Cold lunch, you bring cold lunch, and anything the kids will want to graze on throughout the day. And we'll also have a hot school or a hot lunch delivery as well from Mr. Wolski. So if you guys are in need of hot lunch, we'll have a process in play for that. So just make sure that we know that we need to get you hot lunch, and we'll make sure that we get moving on that. And we'll also have something built into our procedure.
I don't know if that's necessarily a hot lunch. I think it might be a sandwich.
Okay. I guess what I mean is a school provided lunch is what I'm getting at. So,
free for anybody.
Yeah.
So even if you just are, don't have food laying around that can be easily packed up for Friday, you can sign up for a free school lunch that'll be delivered to Chatfield.
All right. So after lunch, 1:30 on to 2:30 is our last period, and we'll do kind of an interdisciplinary activity. Got some ideas. It should be pretty fun what we're kind of putting together. But then once at 2:30, in between 2:30 and 3, that's when parents are encouraged to come and pick up your student. Okay, so you can come as early as 2:30. At 2:30, though, that's way where we will kind of stop the program, and we could be all the way down at the very bottom of our locations, and it might take a little bit of time for the student to make it up there. But in either case, 2:30 is when we'll be done with instructional time, and we will begin kind of the gathering process of meeting back over at the meeting spot where we will drop off as well. So that's the Platte River parking lot. Okay. Good. And also, just so you know, back at that schedule really quick, and we didn't put it in there because we don't have to make a whole big giant thing of passing period, but essentially, if you look at like station 1 or period 1, what we'd like to say, it goes 8:30 to 9:30. We'd really stop at around 9:20. We're going to try 10 minutes and see how that goes, but we'd stop at the first class at 9:20 and then give about 10 minutes for the kids to get to their next waypoints. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so if you have any other siblings at CAC or anything like that, it'd be best if you can pick up the students at Chatfield first and then head to CAC for that 3 o'clock pickup. So rather than going to CAC at 3 and then coming to Chatfield after, it would be better to start at Chatfield and then go to CAC. Yeah,
please. It's important that we get our kids out as soon as we can. So we would not like to be extending past the 3 o'clock time. So please make sure that you guys have made appropriate arrangements to get your student if you need to in those times. So what should the student bring? And these are kind of the required items. So a reusable water bottle. There is a water station next to the restrooms over that. There will be. And also there's a link that James provided as well, document for that. Basically something that's lightweight but wind and water resistant, kind of like a shell. That's kind of important to have. Sun protection, so that could be, the less chemicals we're putting on ourselves, the stuff that the less issues we have potentially getting into the watershed. I know, I usually talk about that when it comes to reef safe sunscreen. But in other case, things with long sleeves or hats, those are kind of things that are kind of I promote personally. But of course, sunblock, of course, if you need it, use it, but you have to be able to bring it yourself. We can't provide sunblock, unfortunately, just with these COVID times. So just make sure that you guys bring what you need as far as protection from the sun. Okay. Obviously, we're going to get a little bit into cooler weather as the fall kind of comes along. We're not going to do anything when it's like crazy cold and blizzarding, but there'll be days that it could be a little bit cooler. And so we're going to suggest a warm jacket. And of course, have a backpack to contain all those items, and a notebook and writing journal is kind of a nice thing that we'd encourage and we would like to see more of. We're not requiring it this round, but I think it would be nice for students to have a journal. The apps that we want students...
We don't have a journal required, but we do want to have students bring a notebook for the extended metaphor activity and possibly the math activity. So it doesn't have nothing like huge, just, thin, something to write on.
So, and then obviously if your student has a cell phone or smartphone device, we're definitely encouraging the downloading of these particular apps that are free. Google Earth, which of course then would sync up with that particular project that you saw earlier, which would be highly encouraged. and also the Cotrex app, which is the Colorado Trails Explorer app that is developed by Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and it's their official website. This thing is actually a jewel, and we keep finding more and more things that are great about it. Every path there, whether it's for a hike or a mountain bike or an ATV, is pretty much listed on here. And if you click on it, it'll tell you the segment, the difficulty, who manages it, who runs it, the length. It's crazy. So I'm really impressed with this thing, and you can import all kinds of interesting data in there as well. And I know that we're going to be kind of playing around with this app and with the Google Earth app to see which ones really work best for us right now. So that's the Colorado Trail Explorer. And they have obviously a very good website, but they have a very easy to use interface on a smartphone device that's found on either iOS or Android devices. So the other one is PlantSnap, which is a plant identification. That one is free as well, I believe. And the other one we have is Flipgrid, which I don't know much about. Jamie, do you know that one?
Yeah, Flipgrid will be for the Spanish assignment. So the students will have a dialogue that they need to do, and so they'll submit that in Flipgrid.
Okay.
So if they don't have it, we can find a way to make it work. You know, I can record it on my phone or something like that. But if you have it, then you can just do it yourself on your phone.
Do you want to show there's a complete list. There's so highly recommended items, though not, absolutely important. There's just a couple other things, so that might make the adventure a little more comfortable. So if you look kind of in the middle part there, like of a foam sit pad, I mean, there's plenty. You can just plop it on the ground in some cases, then on rocks and things like that. It's not essential, but it might make things a little more comfortable. Insect repellent, we definitely recommend. A clipboard for writing. Basic first aid kit. We can only really supply basic supplies. We can give like Band-Aids and things like that, but we're kind of limited on some of the things we can do. So definitely, send your student with some things if they get a boo-boo or something like that, that they can kind of take care of it. That would be highly recommended. So water shoes. The South Platte right now is running really low. Obviously, we're not going to be there at all times, but during this time is an excellent time for us to do some of the water quality testing and bug hunts, essentially, in the macro invert study, and that requires that kids get a little bit into the water. They're not going to be required to do it. I mean, we're happy to get those samples, but that is part of the fun, to wade in a few inches of water as it's moving and looking through bugs and all that kind of stuff. So water shoes or sandals or something like that is highly recommended. I always wear a buff for getting sun off the back of my neck and just to wipe things, away as well. So it's kind of nice to have. We're eventually going to get ourselves more into orienteering, and so having a compass would be nice to have. And though not absolutely necessary, the students will be using their devices, especially the GPS technology portion of it, and that tends to eat battery sometimes. And so if a spare battery is something that you think your student might need if they're eating through battery on their phone, maybe something to consider. So
it's also going to be a very Instagrammable day, and that drains the battery a lot.
Yeah. All right.
Not that we encourage that, but it does happen and drains the battery. So we want them to be able to get picked up and communicate with you in the afternoon after wasting all their battery during the day.
Cool. Yep, and that's same apps as we listed before. So, okay, so go ahead and go next. So required forms. So we've got several of them. So I guess in terms of tiered, we could say that like there's forms that everyone that's going has to fill out.
Yeah, do you want me to talk about this part, Adam?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. So for the paperwork, the general forms that everybody has to complete were emailed to students and parents this morning. So if you check your email, you should have an email with the subject line that says Collegiate Academy has, what is it? Requested you to fill out this form or something like that. So both the parent and the student will have to click on that link to fill out the forms. It's a really easy platform. You basically just e-sign, so click, 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 and you're done. And that's your permission slip, the assumption of risk form, and the cover letter that just kind of goes over some of the rules and regulations that we want to make sure that everybody's signed off on and clear on. So then in addition to that, if any students would like to drive themselves, there's a permission slip for that needs to be sent to the parents. So if you just communicate to me that you need that form, I will send it to you. So a few people have already done that, but if anybody else wants to drive themselves to Chatfield, park their car, stay there, drive home, just send me an email and I'll send you that form. And then the health forms are anybody who has severe allergies or asthma who needs to self-carry medication. So whether that's EpiPen or an inhaler, there's 2 forms that need to be filled out with the nurse. I do have those forms on my website for your convenience, but they need to be also signed by your doctor. So I just left them as a PDF so that you can download that PDF and send it to your doctor for them to complete. So if you need any help with any of the paperwork or anything like that, just feel free to shoot me an email and I'll help you out with that. But for the most part, everybody is covered under the general forms, unless you have one of these 3 exceptions. You want to take back over, Mr. K? You're on mute. You're on mute, Mr. K.
Sorry, I muted it earlier. Okay. So we're just going to jump into the safety part of it. So we obviously have some expectations of students. They need to wear masks throughout the day, even outside, okay, except when eating or drinking. Still to maintain that social distancing of 6 feet whenever possible. Following hygiene etiquette, so that means hand washing. We don't want to have any physical contact. Sharing the materials unless directed by a teacher, and there has to be kind of a sanitation process that happens if you guys are using any shared materials. Make sure that you bring the required items that we have. So, I mean, we'll try our best to have maybe a few backups here and there for students, but make sure that they are coming to, outdoor day prepared, basically, okay? And behave responsibly. We are going to be spread out a ways, and we're not going to be watching the kids every second. There's going to be times we're going to be walking from point A to point B, and they're not going to have a direct line of sight, but we are outdoors and we're engaging in nature. And we can have a teacher can come through and be walking through any of the trails at any moment to kind of be walking through and checking out everything. But we're expecting that you guys be on your best behavior out there and representing the school in the best possible way that you can. Okay, and on our end, we're going to be making sure that we're doing a symptom screen when you guys come in. We'll also make sure that we've got a separate area that's associated for that kind of quarantine if anything kind of happens and we see a temperature that shouldn't be there. And that also means parents make sure that you stay with your kid until that screening has taken place. And we'll also be able to provide certain things as far as hygiene, so hand sanitizer, hand soap, and Band-Aids. We'll also be disinfecting and cleaning any kind of shared resources we have. And of course, we're going to be reminding kids to socially distance themselves as much and as often as we possibly can, okay? And of course, we're just going to try to make the best experiences that are safe for the students, okay? Go ahead. Potential hazards, things that just you need to think about, and we're outdoors. And I know maybe this sounds pretty obvious to you, but there's some children that maybe not realize what's kind of expected, I guess, what could happen. But I mean, you have things like insects out there. So there's bee stings, poison ivy. I've been nabbed with before, or got hit with that pretty hard this summer. There are things that students shouldn't be eating. So berries, potentially. Water is a potential issue as it gets colder, so we want to have a good distance from that. And there's animals like snakes out there that we've seen. So we have seen some rattlesnakes in certain areas, out in the middle, like basking in the sun. So we'll be able to help you out where you can, but there has to be a little bit of common sense, and we'll also kind of tell the students, also to watch out for these things. But there is an environment that children could, interact with that they can get hurt on accident. And so we just want you guys to be aware about that. And we're going to do our best to mitigate those risks and handle those appropriately. So weather can change quickly, especially in Colorado. So we always want you guys to have any kind of layers for rain and or sun protection. So those are always important to have with, and those kind of things can easily fit in a backpack that won't bog down a student all day. So, and right now we're working out emergency protocol and the kind of the flow of things, what happens. But in either case, if anyone needs to get a hold of us, the best way, for any kind of emergency to get the ball rolling would be to contact the high school front desk, which will act as dispatch and contact us directly. And then we can, do whatever is necessary to get a student, ready so that they can be picked up right away. Okay. Obviously, depending on the issue, we've kind of got our own little emergency response that can happen depending on the situation, and it just depends. So we've got a couple of contingencies in place, but really, for the most part, the things that are really going to be the issues are just like things like stings and little abrasions and stuff like that from just being outside in nature. So just be aware of that, and yeah. Also, students that are unable to join us, and those will be ones that are doing the online right now, we will have virtual options as well. And so we've got a couple things here. So assignments will be posted in Google Classroom. So every one of the ones that I do, for instance, I'm going to be doing water quality. We're all coming up with an analog, a digital analog of what a student can do at home, and we're also kind of working out the details of what students can do to earn that particular assignment. So there'll always be something similar for that other student to do if they're online. Sorry, go ahead. So so the other option is teacher may post instructions to complete outdoor activities on their own in your own neighborhood or local park. So we do have some students that are interested in going out and doing some nature as well. So there's a couple things that we've listed here. So for math, there's a couple activities to do. Science, and that's ones that I'm working out with the kids right now, but they're doing their own version of water quality. And in some cases, the thing that Jamie's linked there is actually a water quality test kit that we use that you can order from Amazon. And I know some students are using that. So those are just some of the examples that we'll have, but rather than talking specifically, they'll be listed in Google Classroom. All right, go ahead. Okay, the last thing is supporting the program. So if you guys would like to make a donation, we're trying to expand our program. And right now, as you know, with COVID, it's pretty much nerfed everything that we can do really as a school. So we'd love any kind of support that you guys are willing to provide. So we're always looking to get some extra expert classes in play, purchase some new equipment. So if that's something you want to if you're interested in, please send any kind of check that you guys are able to support us with to Collegiate Academy of Colorado Foundation. So, and make sure that it says PBL on the account, and make sure you just kind of send us a list of, or let us know in an email if you guys are going to donate to us, so we can kind of help make sure those funds go where they need to go. And then also we put an Amazon wish list just for some of the things as far as some of the activities that we do that will be really enriching for our kids, and we'll probably be adding to this. But if this is something that you're interested in supporting us on, feel free to look onto there as well. Some of those things would be like tarps and stuff like that, and some of them are water purifiers and stoves and all that. So yeah, and I think that's pretty much it. Jamie, do you have anything to add?
No, you did a great job. Thank you.
Okay. So anyway, guys, that kind of concludes our discussion right now. So
I just reopened the chat. If you want, you can either ask questions by turning on your microphone to ask, or if you have questions that you want to put in the chat, you can feel free to ask questions in the chat.
Yeah, if there's any questions, let's hear. We understand it might take a little while to type a response.
I'm just gonna paste those links back into the chat, just in case anybody missed any of them. There's all the links.
Okay.
Oh, I guess one other thing that I just kind of wanted to highlight is that a lot of this information is available on my website, which you can get to from the Collegiate Academy homepage. You just go to staff and then click on Brightener and then Outdoor Action Days tab. So I've got the some slideshows, some more information about the programs, the maps to get there, what's on here? Things to bring, and the placard that you'll want to display for your free entrance, and the essential paperwork, including the extra forms. So the allergy and asthma forms are in here for you to download if you need those. And yeah, that's pretty much all I've got.
Good. Cool. Well, it doesn't look like there's any questions. So, yeah, if you guys are okay, you guys are more than welcome to leave the meet at this point. But thank you guys very much for kind of tuning in. And again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot either Jamie an email or myself, or get out to the high school front desk. We'll definitely get that answered right away. But thank you guys very much for hearing us out and supporting the program in any way you can. So, okay.